and morning to process the scene for evidence. It should be noted there were no apparent signs of foul play. In the early hours of Thursday, February 27, 2025, Mr. Hackman and Ms. Arakawa were transported to the office of the medical investigator. An autopsy was performed.
Gene Hackman, a name that once echoed through Hollywood with legendary performances, a cinematic icon who chose to spend his final years in quiet solitude in Santa Fe, New Mexico. No more stage lights, no more applause. He embraced a peaceful life with his wife, Betsy Arakawa, far removed from the glamorous world he once ruled. But then, on a fateful day, Hackman and Betsy were found dead together in their home. No signs of violence, no suicide notes, just two people lying motionless, as if they had drifted into eternal sleep together. Gene Hackman's death immediately sent shockwaves through the world, but it was only the beginning of a far more chilling mystery. When the FBI launched an investigation, they discovered a hidden tunnel deep beneath his estate, something never mentioned in any architectural plans. Inside the tunnel, they found aged files, old photographs of unidentified faces, strange instruments, and most disturbingly, a heavy iron door with no handle. What really happened inside Gene Hackman's home? Did he and Betsy make a pact to leave this world together? Or was their death merely a fragment of a much larger mystery, one tied to whatever secrets the FBI unearthed underground? The answers do not come easily. Every clue left behind only deepens the darkness of this enigma. And when Hackman's daughter, Leslie Hackman, finally speaks out about her suspicions, the world is left utterly stunned. Two intertwining mysteries, two lives ending in silence, a tunnel filled with unanswered questions, and above all, a truth that may never come to light. Shocking discovery, the secret beneath the ground. When the FBI stepped into Gene Hackman's estate in Santa Fe, they were not merely investigating a routine death. What they found inside the Hollywood legend's home changed the entire course of the case. At first, the search followed standard procedures. Hackman's $4 million mansion, where he and his wife had lived for over 30 years, appeared serene, showing no signs of foul play. But as agents examined peculiar architectural details within the house, they uncovered a hidden door leading underground, something never mentioned in any official blueprints. The old wooden door opened to a narrow passage, with stone steps descending into darkness. The air below was thick, damp, and filled with an ancient, indescribable scent. A hidden underground tunnel, buried for decades, concealed from the world. Flashlights swept across the moss-covered stone walls, revealing strange markings etched into the surface. The agents moved cautiously through the oppressive space, finding stacks of old wooden crates piled like a long-forgotten archive. Some had decayed with time, while others remained intact, as if safeguarding a secret never meant to be uncovered. What had been hidden down here? And why would Gene Hackman, a man who seemingly led a quiet life, possess such a place? When the crates were finally opened, the FBI uncovered a collection of unsettling artifacts. Black and white photographs of unfamiliar people, seemingly from a distant era. Unknown faces, mysterious settings. No one knew who they were or why Gene Hackman had kept them. Aged documents bound in leather straps, filled with yellowed pages covered in cryptic, erratic handwriting. Some sections had been torn away, as if someone had deliberately erased evidence. Personal belongings, an antique pocket watch, a few intricate pieces of jewelry, and a small notebook containing enigmatic notes. It seemed these items had remained undisturbed for years. But the most chilling discovery was the massive iron door with no handle, buried deep within the tunnel. The door, constructed of thick steel and corroded with age, lacked any exterior handle or lock. It was designed in such a way that it could only be opened from the inside. What lay behind that door? Who had sealed it? And more importantly, why had it been hidden beneath Gene Hackman's home? The agents searched for any locking mechanism or means of access, but found none. Strange symbols were carved into the metal, inscriptions that did not match any known language. The passage of time suggested the door had remained sealed for decades. But if Gene Hackman had known of its existence, why had he never spoken of it? The questions kept multiplying, yet answers remained shrouded in darkness. Beyond the cryptic artifacts, the FBI also uncovered a series of strange devices. Tools that appeared to belong to a skilled craftsman, while others resembled instruments from a secretive laboratory. Encrypted records, yet to be deciphered, potentially linked to a hidden project from the past. Old telephones with unread messages, possibly evidence of secret conversations. A notebook listing locations that did not appear on any known maps, intensifying the agent's suspicions. These items were not mere abandoned relics. They carried a deeper significance, something Gene Hackman had known, or perhaps something he had sought to conceal in his final years. After news of the hidden tunnel leaked, strange stories began to surface from local residents. Some workers who had been hired for repairs at the mansion had mysteriously disappeared after completing their jobs. They never returned to Santa Fe, and no one knew where they had gone. Some speculated that the tunnel might be part of a much larger underground network. But if that were true, what was it built for? And the most pressing question, why was Gene Hackman connected to all of this? As the FBI continued their investigation, a chilling realization began to take shape. Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, had not simply passed away of natural causes. Details surrounding their deaths no longer aligned with the initial reports. Their home had remained eerily silent for days. The doors were unlocked, yet no one answered calls. No one could determine precisely when they had died. No one knew if they had left this world willingly or if someone had helped them do so. But considering everything that had transpired, the hidden tunnel, the cryptic objects, one crucial question remained unanswered. What did Gene Hackman know? What had he been hiding all these years? And was his death somehow tied to that secret? The final days of Gene Hackman. The discovery of the secret tunnel cast Gene Hackman's death into a shadow of suspicion. But before the FBI uncovered that hidden passage, before theories began to swirl, what were Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, truly like in their final days? From the outside, their lives seemed ordinary. Neighbors in Santa Fe recalled Hackman, an old man who, even at 95, retained his rugged presence, his eyes still sharp like in his Hollywood days. He took morning walks, read on his porch, and sipped green tea in peace. Betsy was always by his side, as she had been for the past 30 years. But in hindsight, those closest to Hackman began to notice subtle, almost imperceptible changes, small, yet deeply unsettling. Hackman's daughter, Leslie Hackman, did not see her father often in his later years, but they kept in touch over the phone. In their last few conversations, something felt different, an unexplainable vagueness, a silence that lingered between his words. He still laughed, still talked about his garden, about his books, but there were moments when his voice would drop and his eyes. It was as if he was somewhere else. Even Hackman's old friends sensed the change. Some noticed he had begun avoiding meetings, something he had never done before. Though he had long retired from Hollywood, he still enjoyed keeping in touch with old friends. Yet, in his final months, he suddenly cut off all communication. One of his close friends recalled, "I sent messages but got no response. I called, but Betsy was always the one who answered, with the same reply every time, 'Gene is resting.'" But was he really resting? Or was he being isolated? Betsy Arakawa, the woman who had been by Hackman's side for 3 decades, was known as a devoted wife, caring for him with all her love. But had that love turned into obsession? Into control? Those who knew the couple began to realize that Betsy never left Hackman alone for too long. She was always by his side, not just as a wife, but almost like a guardian. Many began to wonder, did Betsy love Gene, or was she afraid of losing him? Some of Hackman's friends recalled times when Betsy prevented him from meeting old acquaintances. If someone wanted to visit, she would always have an excuse, saying Hackman didn't want company or wasn't feeling well enough to see anyone. Gene was never one to turn down a visit from friends, but lately, every time I reached out, it was always Betsy who answered for him. As the end drew near, Hackman appeared in public less and less, not because he didn't want to, but because it seemed like someone didn't want him leaving the house. One chilling detail was Betsy's long-standing habit of using sedatives. Those tiny pills, seemingly harmless, would become a crucial piece of this puzzle. Betsy had trouble sleeping, but her recent prescriptions were at a much higher dosage, and they weren't just for her. The FBI found an open bottle of pills on the table next to the sofa where Gene Hackman and Betsy were discovered. But these were not ordinary sleeping pills. They were strong enough to induce a prolonged coma if taken in excess. Did Hackman willingly take those pills? Or had Betsy convinced him that leaving together was the best choice? On February 26, 2025, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's home became the scene of a shocking case. A maintenance worker was the first to find their bodies after failing to receive any response from them for days. Hackman, 95, was found collapsed near the main entrance. His cane and sunglasses were neatly placed beside him, as if he had been about to leave but suddenly fell. His pacemaker recorded its last activity on February 17th, meaning he had been dead for at least 9 days before being discovered. Meanwhile, Betsy Arakawa, 65, was found in the bathroom near a toppled heater. Prescription pills were scattered across the sink, but there were no signs of force or struggle. Police also found one of their 3 dogs, Zinna, dead inside a closet, while the other 2 dogs were still alive. There were no signs of a break-in or foul play, but the discrepancy in their times of death, along with Zinna's strange passing, raised even more questions. No one knew how long Betsy had lived after Hackman's death, or why she never called for help. There was no suicide note, no explanation, only a room filled with absolute silence, as if they had prepared for this moment together. It's not unheard of for elderly couples to make pacts, choosing to leave this world together rather than face life without their partner. Betsy had once told a close friend, "If Gene ever leaves first, I wouldn't be able to go on." Did she truly follow through on those words? And if she did, was Hackman willing? Or had this been a form of control spanning 3 decades, ending in an irreversible farewell? The FBI found no conclusive evidence of foul play, but they also could not call this a natural death. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa left this world in utter silence, taking all their secrets with them. But the ultimate question remains: did they die for love, or to keep a secret they never wanted revealed? Gene Hackman's daughter's chilling reaction. The news of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's deaths was not only shocking because of the mysterious details surrounding the case, but also because of the strange reaction from his own daughter, Leslie Hackman. While the public expected a heartfelt condolence, a mourning statement, or even an emotional breakdown, Leslie chose to react in a way that sent chills down everyone's spine. When asked about her father's passing, instead of showing grief or sorrow, Leslie only said one short but deeply cryptic sentence. "He chose that life, and then he left in the same way he chose." No tears, no conventional words of mourning, just an eerily indifferent statement. Why did Leslie say that? What secrets was she referring to? Was she implying something about her father's death or about Gene Hackman's entire life in his final years? The public began digging deeper into the Hackman family's relationships, and what they uncovered only made everything more complicated. For over 2 decades, Gene Hackman had almost completely disappeared from the world. He no longer interacted with Hollywood, old friends, or even his own biological family. He lived in isolation in Santa Fe, and the only person by his side was Betsy Arakawa. There were no recent pictures of Hackman with his children, no indication that he had stayed in touch with them. His relationship with Leslie had been distant for years. But had it truly grown so cold that she barely expressed emotion when her father died? The questions only multiplied as journalists dug deeper into Hackman's family life. The vague hints became clearer. Leslie was not the only one who harbored doubts about her father's death. Other relatives also felt that something wasn't right in the last years of Hackman's life. Why did he cut off all ties with his past? Was that truly his decision? Or had someone else isolated him? Betsy Arakawa, the devoted wife, was always known as a caring woman, looking after her husband with love. But was that love a form of control? People close to Hackman gradually realized that Betsy never left him alone for long. She was always by his side, not just as a wife, but as a guardian. Many wondered, did Betsy love Gene, or was she afraid of losing him? Some of Hackman's old friends recalled occasions when Betsy blocked him from seeing them. If anyone wanted to visit, she would always have an excuse, saying Hackman didn't want to see anyone or wasn't feeling well enough. Gene was never the kind of person to refuse meeting his friends. But recently, every time I reached out, it was always Betsy answering for him. As time went on, Hackman appeared in public less and less, not because he didn't want to, but because it seemed like someone didn't want him to leave the house. Another chilling detail was Betsy's long-term use of sedatives. Those tiny pills, seemingly harmless, became a key detail in this case. Betsy had trouble sleeping, but her latest prescriptions had a much higher dosage, and they weren't just for her. The FBI found an open pill bottle on the table next to the sofa where Gene Hackman and Betsy were found. But these weren't ordinary sleeping pills. They were strong enough to induce a prolonged coma if taken in excess. Elderly couples sometimes make pacts, choosing to leave this world together rather than face life without their partner. Betsy had once told a close friend, "If Gene ever left first, I wouldn't be able to go on." Had she truly followed through on those words? And if so, was Hackman willing? Or had this been a form of control spanning 3 decades, ending in an irreversible farewell? The FBI found no direct evidence of foul play, but they also could not call this a natural death. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa left the world in absolute silence, taking all their secrets with them. Leslie Hackman didn't need to say much. Her single statement was enough to make the world believe that behind this tragedy lay something far more unsettling. Gene Hackman's death was not just a family tragedy. It may have been the key to unlocking a far greater mystery that will never be fully understood. Unsolved mystery. The existence of a secret tunnel beneath Gene Hackman's mansion has only made the case more perplexing. Was it merely a forgotten personal storage space, or did it hold a deeper significance? Law enforcement and the FBI meticulously examined every detail of Hackman's home. But the most baffling aspect remained the connection between this tunnel and his mysterious death. Why was it built here? In the very house where Hackman and Betsy had lived for over 3 decades. Was it just an old structure? Or did it play a crucial role in Hackman's final days? During the initial investigations, authorities found no signs of a break-in or external attack. However, one undeniable truth emerged. Hackman had been living in near total isolation. He had distanced himself from the world, severed ties with old friends, minimized interactions with family, and all outside communication had to go through Betsy Arakawa. But was this truly his choice? Or had someone else controlled him, turning his life into an invisible prison? The investigation report indicated that Hackman may have died on February 17th, yet his body was not discovered until February 26th. This means that for more than a week, no one noticed his absence, not even Betsy Arakawa. But if Hackman had already passed away on February 17th, then what was Betsy doing during that time? Why didn't she call for help? And if she had survived for several days after Hackman's death, What truly caused her to die in that house, leaving no trace of a struggle or any attempt to seek assistance? The presence of Zina, the dog found locked inside a closet, only added to the confusion. Why did Zina die, while the other two dogs survived? Was it just a coincidence, or had someone deliberately locked it inside? Several theories emerged. If Betsy was alive for days after Hackman's death, was she the one who locked the dog away? If they both died at the same time, then who shut the closet door? If someone entered the house between February 17th and February 26th, why was there no trace of their presence? The situation became even stranger when the FBI began investigating the tunnel beneath Hackman's mansion in greater detail. Among the documents recovered, they found records of underground structures in the Santa Fe area. Some notes contained unofficial maps, suggesting the existence of a hidden network that had been there long before. Why did Gene Hackman have these documents? Had he uncovered something in his final years, and could it have played a role in his death? One chilling entry in an old notebook found inside the tunnel sent shivers down the spines of those who read it. "If I disappear, look underground." The handwriting was hasty, as if written in a moment of urgency. But who had written it? Hackman, Betsy, or someone else? The biggest questions remain unanswered. Was the death of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa directly linked to the secret tunnel? Why did it exist beneath Hackman's house without anyone knowing? Were the documents, photographs, and artifacts inside the tunnel the key to solving the case? The police continue to investigate, but one fact is clear. Hackman and Betsy died in absolute silence, taking all their secrets with them beneath the ground. So was this a predetermined departure, or was there an unseen force orchestrating everything? Gene Hackman was once a Hollywood legend, a man who walked the red carpet and received thunderous applause from audiences. But in the end, he chose a quiet life, retreating into the solitude of the Santa Fe desert, where only he, Betsy Arakawa, and secrets never revealed remained. Hackman's death was not just a personal tragedy. It opened the door to a story filled with mystery. A secret tunnel beneath his home, strange artifacts of unknown origin, and a death that occurred in absolute silence. These elements turned the case into one of Hollywood's greatest enigmas. Leslie Hackman, his only daughter, did not weep upon hearing the news, nor did she express grief. Instead, she left behind a cryptic statement. He chose that life. And then, he left in the same way he chose. Was this merely an acceptance of her father's fate, or did it carry a deeper meaning? The FBI searched the house, investigated every clue, but all led to dead ends. There were no signs of foul play, no suspects, no clear evidence suggesting an external force behind the deaths of Hackman and Betsy. But that did not mean there was no hidden truth. Betsy Arakawa, the woman who had been by Hackman's side for over 3 decades, was always seen as a devoted wife. But was she the only one truly in control of everything in his final years? Anyone who tried to reach Hackman was blocked by Betsy, and when she passed away alongside him, the question of control disappeared with her. Yet despite the mysteries surrounding his death, one thing remains undeniable. Gene Hackman's legacy endures. His performances in The French Connection, Unforgiven, Bonnie and Clyde, Mississippi Burning, and countless other films not only left an indelible mark on cinema history, but also shaped an entire generation of actors. He was never the glamorous Hollywood leading man, but a powerhouse performer who brought depth to his characters, leaving a lasting impression on audiences. But tragically, Hackman's life did not end with accolades. Just as he chose to step away from acting in 2004 without a farewell, his death, too, faded into an eerie silence. Was that what he wanted? Or was it simply Hollywood forgetting the very icons it once worshipped? We may never know the truth behind the closed doors of that mansion. But one thing is certain. Gene Hackman, with all his glory, loneliness, and mystery, will never be forgotten.